Hey, Cody and Kelly. Promised I would get you this video while you were sleeping tonight, and we're going to go through how to add a photo to the website and then how to add a photo to the dashboard. Now, since the video is somewhat public, I'm not going to put in here how to log into the two other dashboards, but I'll send you some instructions on that. But we're going to just sort of take it from when you've logged into the dashboards and how to enter in a photo. Now, the first thing I want to show you is I'm, of course, just on the site right here. If I go to Gallery, this is where the photos display, and I've actually added another way of displaying photos that I think will help us a lot, and that's something called Fish Stories. Now, under Fish Stories, we can add a photo like what we have here, but then we can also put in a story behind that, and I'll show you how to do that in just a little bit. Now, if I scroll down, then I just have a typical photo gallery. Now, the photo that we add can be both in Fish Stories and add a description to it or a story about it, and we can have it into the gallery. So either or both, if you may, is where you do that. So I'm going to switch over here real quick to the dashboard. Now, this is the dashboard on the website. This is the same place you go in and make your changes or additions to the calendar and that sort of thing. Remember, on the left-hand side, you go down here into the simple booking calendar. But in this case, the first thing I'll show you is how to go in and enter in a story about a fish or a fishing adventure that Cody just took people on. And that's done up here through posts, if you may. And so I'm going to click on posts, and it'll take a second here. It'll give me a menu off to the right hand side, and I want to come over here. These are the posts that I have, and I want to come up here and I want to add a new post. See that in blue? So I click that in blue. It'll change the screen here real quick. And here is the post on how to add a story. The first thing you have to have in any story is you have to have a title. And I might put in, there we go, we killed the stripers today, exclamation point. And then here is where the story would go. And this is where you can put in the text about the day catching stripers. We were on the water early and we couldn't keep them off the hook. Now, I only have a quick sentence here, but in order to make the story extremely effective, so it shows up in the search engines and that sort of thing, you want to have a story of about 200 to 300 words. And notice that there's a word counter down here. I've got 14 stories here. The other thing you want to do is you want to use keywords. And the keywords are what people search for on the internet to look for fishing for stripers or fishing for blue catfish. And so my next line may be the Texas striper fishing couldn't have been any better. And so I use the keyword. A lot of people will type in Texas striper fishing and they'll use that when they search, and so I put that into my story. And of course we just go on from there. You want to make the stories simple. You don't want to use great big words and things that people have to look up in the dictionary. The gurus, when it comes to search engine optimization, says you need to write it so that a third grader can read it. And so I've never had a problem with that. My writing is fairly basic, and so if you write stories in that context, that would be best. Now, there's a category that we want to tell it where we want to put this. And over here we have Fish Stories as one of the categories. Now, I also have a striper category, so this would show up on like the striper page. I could even put it into the fishing reports as I want, and so I can put it in as many different categories as I want, but in this case I'm just going to put it in the Fish Stories over here. Now, here's where you add the photo. If you scroll down and it says feature image over here. Go ahead and set the featured image. And it'll bring up then a gallery of all of the photos that I currently have in the system. Now, since this photo has just been put into Dropbox, I want to go to the Dropbox and upload this photo into the website. So all I do is come up here to the upper left, and you'll see it says Upload Files. And I'll click on Upload Files, and then it says, hey, where do we have those files? So I'm going to select Files here, and then it'll bring up a directory of the computer. And so in this case, I'm going to go to Dropbox, and it brings up my Dropbox file. And I'm just going to do a list this way. And I'm using an Apple. This works the same way as a Windows machine does, and I'm going to sort it by name. And here then is all the files that I have. And if I look for Cody, there he is, Cody's Guide Service. I'm going to click on that, and then that brings up the Dropbox that we have. Now Cody added those photos, I believe, in the Stripers category. So if I come down here, I'm looking for my file called Striper. There it is. And then there are all of the files that Cody added today or yesterday. I'm going to look at it in a panel mode so I can see the different photos, so I know which one I want to pick. I'm going to pick this one right here. It's just the two guys with some nice stripers in front of them. And I'll hit Open. And what that does then is it now will upload that file to our library within the site. And so that then will populate over here in a second, and we'll see that photo. Takes a second sometimes, just depending on your internet speed and that sort of thing, how to get it in there. And here it is right there. There's the photo. And oh, this one looks like it's sideways. I'm going to, at this point, I'm going to add another one because sometimes you have to rearrange the photo if they're taken on an iPhone and they're taken sideways. So anyway, I'm going to come back here. I'll come back to Select Files. It brings up then where I was, and I'm going to pull in maybe this photo right here, and then that will start loading in. And here in a second it will populate again. Now anytime that you have a new photo that comes in, they're all going to be named by your phone. So this one has a really long name, which is a number to it. And you have a caption, an alt text, and a description. And these are extremely important to fill out. And so, and along with the title. So I'm going to change the title of this to September 2016 striper fishing. And again, I want to use some keywords in here, so I'm going to type in Great Texas Striper Fishing. The alt text might also be striper fishing, and then in the description, maybe we caught these Texoma Lake striper fishing. So again, I used another keyword here, and then I'm going to set this as the featured page by clicking on the bottom, and then the picture then comes in down below. If I scroll up, then I've got my text in here. Now the next step, which is extremely important that you do, you come over here and hit publish, and now that will publish that picture to the Fish Stories category that we set up under the gallery. So I'm going to come back up to the website, and there's my gallery again. I'm going to have to update it, so I'll use the refresh on this, and then this next story should pop up. Yep, there it is. We killed the stripers today, and then there's that photo and then the description down here. Again, if you can take the time and put in little stories about some of the photos that you put in, the better it's going to be in people being able to find you on the internet. And so that's how we added that there. Now I'm going to take this same photo and I'm going to add it now back into the gallery down below. Just being a little redundant, but that's okay. Okay, another thing that we will do here is we will add a photo to not the fish stories part of the gallery, but to the gallery itself down here. Now, remember, we added this particular story via the posts. And my point here is, really, you don't never have to edit this. These automatically come in from making posts. But if I come down here and I want to add a photo here, I have to hit the edit button for this gallery, which is this little pencil button right there, right in the first line of photos. And it brings up this menu off to the side. Now the menu itself is a little daunting. It controls colors and opacities and that sort of thing, but I'm looking for the button called Add Media. And I'll click on Add Media, and then it will bring up this familiar looking library that we've used before. Now, if the photo already exists in the library, I'll just simply come down here and let's say I wanted to add this photo here. I hold down the Command key and then I click on this photo, and as you will notice, it adds a plus mark to that. All I have to do now is come down here and hit select, and then that photo now should be added to the bottom of the gallery. Let's come down here and take a look. Yep, there it is right there. And so that's how I've added a photo to this particular gallery. Now I've got to save this, and so I'll hit the save button in the upper left hand corner. It's just kind of below that arrow, and it'll sync up. And then if I click or hold my arrow or my cursor over Cody's Guide Service, hit dashboard, it'll take us out to that familiar dashboard when I hit leave there, and it will then show us the dashboard that we're familiar with. If I go then to the website itself, I've got another window up here that I've been using, and I'll hit refresh, because anytime that we add something to the website or whatever, if we have the website open somewhere else, we need to hit refresh. There are the photo gallery. There's the photo gallery. Oh, it's still refreshing here, and there's that new photo that I've added down here. Not nearly as powerful when it comes to finding you on the internet, adding photos to the gallery, but you can do that. And as many of them you can put in 200 or 300 words as a story behind it and categorize them as fish stories when you're doing that post, it's all the better. And so again, I'm going to go back to the dashboard. To add a fish story, you do it through posts up here, and then you can hit all post or add a post if you want. I'm just going to go to all post. Again, it shows then the listing of all the posts that we have into the system. There is the one we just did. We killed the stripers today. I can hit edit on that if I've made a misspelling or something like that, and it will bring up that paragraph or the couple lines that I typed. I can change the title of it, and I can change the categories. Anytime you make a change, you have to use the update key. Now, to do the same sort of thing on the application or the mobile app, I'm just going to go to the mobile app site. And again, I'm not going to show you the login since this is kind of a public viewing of a video. This is where you will go when you enter in the login information. Now, in the dashboard for the app, you have functionality, you have content, you have appearance, and you have publish. About the only place you really want to go, other than going into the dashboard to send messages and stuff, is here under content. So I'm going to click the content button, and then it will show me the tabs that we have set up for the mobile application. And if you'll notice, there is the gallery right there. So I'm going to click the gallery, and you can have multiple galleries, and we have only one right now, which is the photo gallery itself. If you set up another gallery for stripers and then another gallery for catfish, you can do that. But for right now, we're combining all of those, and I'm going to hit the edit key. And as I do, it brings up then a window on the screen, and it will show me the photos that I have in there already. It takes just a second. There are all the photos. and I can either display them in what's called a cover flow. That's where you swipe. That's the way it's set up now. Or I can do it in a grid. It'll just show the photos, in a grid format on the screen. But here's how I add it. Okay, Cody and Kelly, on a mobile device, sometimes the photos that you take on a phone are too big to go on a mobile application. It seems like it's odd because the phone itself has taken some photos, but in regards to having the mobile application worked as quickly as possible, we've got to reduce some of those sizes. And so if you see here, these photos that you just added on the Stripers, a lot of them are into the megabytes, 4.1 megabytes, 4.6 megabytes, and those are just too big for the system to handle. You want to keep it in around the 200 kilobyte area. And so these two photos at 180 kilobytes and 162 kilobytes are about right. Now, if you tried to download or upload some of these photos, the system would stop you and just basically say they're too big. And so there are a number of different systems out there that you can use. Some are online. And one of the ones that we use a lot is PicResize.com. And if you go to PicResize.com, then I'm going to go ahead and hit the refresh or the home, because I just got done reformatting a photo here. And this is what you'll see when you go to PicResize.com. And it's very easy to use. You just simply hit the Browse button, and then it'll bring up a window of the files that are in the computer, and you got to find the one in Dropbox, if you may, or on your camera, wherever the files exist that you want to send over. And so in this case, here is a photo here. I'm going to resize, right? And so I'm going to grab that because I want to put that in the app, and I'm going to hit open. And then it will then prompt me to hit continue, and I will do that. And it's now going through and bringing the photo up on the screen. So there is the picture of, it looks like Stripers. And that photo is pretty big. The estimated final, if I only reduce it by 50%, is 2304 by 1296, which is still too big. Now, one of the options that you have is to reduce it to a 75% smaller, and that'll reduce that dramatically. So if I scroll on down, it says I'm done. I'm going to resize it. So resize the photos at a 75% smaller, and I'll click resize my photo. And then I want to save it to a disk. I want to save it back to my Dropbox where it came from. And basically then it's now downloaded that to my computer. I'm going to click here. This is where I see my photos. And there is the picture of the fish. If I go then on my preview and I file and I export it, and I'm going to send this back to the same Dropbox, and it puts an RSZ before it. I'm going to use picture number 34, and I'm going to hit save, and now that saves it into the system. So if I go back then to my dashboard, or I go to the application, remember I'm in content up here, gallery, and I'm going to come down and I'm going to edit this picture gallery. That's the one that is on the system, and it'll bring up a pop-up screen, and it's loading. Here we go. Okay. And so at this point then I want to add a photo. I'm going to hit browse, and I come up then with the Striper file. The file I want to download, the one I just resized, is the one with 34 at the end. So there's the resize 34. All I do is click on it and hit open, and then it brings in the name of it. To then add it to the gallery, all I do is hit Save Changes. And it takes just a second here, and it will upload that photo. If I scroll back down again, went too far. scroll back down, you'll see the pictures of the fish now are in my directory. So again, it takes a little bit of gymnastics to get around and change the size of the pictures, but unfortunately that's the way everything on the internet works when you're dealing with mobile. A lot of times you have to resize that and then put it on over to the mobile environment. Once it's saved, right, and you've hit the save changes, that's automatically now been updated to the app. If you go to the app, that picture of the fish now is there. And so anyway, that is how you resize a photo and add it then to your picture gallery within the application.